The space station looked like a giant metal flower floating among the stars. Its silver walls caught the light from 3 suns, making it shine like a jewel in the darkness. This was the Galactic Academy, where the best soldiers from 17 different alien races came to learn how to fight and protect their worlds. Lisa Murphy pressed her face against the small window of the transport ship. At 19 years old, she had never seen anything so amazing. Back on Earth, the biggest building she knew was the shopping mall in her hometown. This station was 100 times larger, with spinning sections and glowing lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Pretty cool, right? Jake Collins sat down beside her. He was from Colorado and had the same excited look on his face. They were the first humans ever invited to train at the academy. Earth had just joined the galactic community 2 years ago, and everyone wanted to see what humans could do. The transport ship docked with a soft bump. Lisa grabbed her bag and followed Jake through the airlock. The station's corridors were wide and bright, filled with creatures that looked like nothing from Earth. Some looked like walking crystals that sparkled when they moved. Others had green skin and leaves growing from their arms like living trees. A few had hard shells like giant bugs and made clicking sounds when they walked. All of them stared at Lisa and Jake as they passed. "Look at the small ones," whispered a voice that sounded like grinding rocks. Lisa turned to see a creature that looked like it was made of gray stone. Its red eyes glowed as it watched them. So tiny and soft. How did they even get into space? Jake's face turned red, but Lisa touched his arm. "Ignore them," she said quietly. "We're here to prove ourselves, not fight." Their first stop was the commander's office. Commander Thexal was a Craxi, which meant he looked like a giant insect covered in black armor. He stood 3 feet taller than Lisa and had 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. "Humans," he said, looking down at them like they were bugs. "Your species has been in space for what, 50 years? We Craxi have been fighting wars for 3,000 years. You are here only because the Council demands it. Do not expect special treatment because you are new and weak." Lisa wanted to say something back, but she bit her tongue. This was not the time to make enemies. The commander gave them a quick tour of the station. The training rooms were huge, with walls that could become anything the computers wanted. The weapons room had guns that shot light instead of bullets. The medical bay had machines that could heal cuts in seconds. Everything was so advanced that Lisa felt like a cave person visiting a modern city. Their first class was about galactic history. The teacher was a Zephyrian, one of the crystal people. She glowed with soft blue light as she spoke about great battles and famous heroes. Lisa tried to take notes, but the teacher spoke so fast that she could barely keep up. "The Battle of 7 Suns," the teacher said, "was won because Commander Zelnoth used advanced energy manipulation to defeat the enemy fleet. Only species with natural energy abilities can perform such tactics." A Zephyrian student raised his AZ hand. "What about humans, teacher? What special abilities do they have?" The teacher looked at Lisa and Jake with what might have been a smile. It was hard to tell with a face made of crystal. "Humans have no special abilities. They cannot manipulate energy. They cannot interface with computers directly, and they cannot regenerate lost limbs. They are, in most ways, quite ordinary." The other students laughed. Lisa felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she kept taking notes. During lunch, Lisa and Jake sat alone at a small table. The food was strange but tasted okay. Around them, groups of alien students talked and laughed together. Nobody tried to talk to the humans. "This is harder than I thought it would be," Jake said, poking at something that looked like green jelly. "Everyone thinks we're useless." Lisa watched a group of Craxi students arm wrestling. Their natural armor made them incredibly strong. At another table, Zephyrian students were making small lightning bolts dance between their fingers just for fun. A Roku student was typing on 3 different computers at the same time using cables plugged directly into his head. "Maybe we are useless," Jake continued. "Look at them. They're all amazing. What can we do that they can't do better?" Lisa thought about this for a long time. Back home, Her grandfather had told her stories about human soldiers who did impossible things when everything looked hopeless. He said humans were special, not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they never gave up. "We survive," she said finally. "That's what humans do. We survive." The afternoon was combat training. Commander Thexal put all the students into mixed teams for practice fights. The Craxi students were naturally strong and tough. The Zephyrians could move energy shields around their bodies. The Verdani could grow thick bark over their skin for protection. The Roku could predict attacks by connecting to the training computers. Lisa was put on a team with 3 alien students who clearly did not want her there. When she suggested a plan to surround their opponents, the team leader, a young Craxi named Velkan, just laughed. "Humans think too simply," he said. "Your brains are too small for real strategy. Just stay back and try not to get hurt." During the fight, Lisa did stay back. She watched how each species moved and fought. She saw that the Craxi were strong, but slow. The Zephyrians were fast but got tired quickly. The Verdani were tough but could not see well when they grew their bark armor. The Roku were smart but weak. Her team lost the fight badly. Commander Thexal was not happy. "Pathetic," he growled. "The humans made your team weak. In a real battle, weakness gets everyone killed." That night, Lisa lay in her small room and stared at the ceiling. Through her window, she could see Earth's sun, just a tiny dot among millions of stars. She felt very far from home and very small, but she also felt determined. Tomorrow would be another day of training, another chance to prove that humans belonged here, another chance to show that being ordinary could be extraordinary. She did not know that in 3 months she would do something that would change how the entire galaxy thought about humans forever. 3 months had passed since Lisa and Jake arrived at the academy. The other students had stopped staring at them, but they still treated the humans like they were not really there. Lisa had gotten used to being ignored in strategy meetings and being given the easiest jobs during training. Today was different. Today was a live fire exercise, which meant they would use real weapons instead of practice ones. The scenario was a rescue mission. Fake hostages were trapped in a building, and teams of students had to get them out while computer-controlled enemies tried to stop them. Lisa checked her gear one more time. She wore light armor that felt heavy and clunky compared to what the other species had. Her weapon was a simple plasma rifle that shot bolts of super-hot energy. It was powerful, but took a long time to recharge between shots. Jake was on her team as the communications specialist. His job was to talk to the other teams and coordinate their attacks. He was good at this because humans were good at talking to each other, even when they were scared or confused. "Team 7, ready for deployment." Jake spoke into his headset. His voice was calm and steady, even though Lisa could see he was nervous. Commander Thexal watched from the observation deck above the training room. The room itself was huge, with walls that could change to look like anything. Today it looked like a city street with tall buildings and narrow alleys. Smoke machines made everything hazy and hard to see. "Begin exercise," the commander's voice echoed through the room. The assault team moved forward first. They were mostly Craxi and Roku students, chosen because they were strong and smart. Lisa followed behind with the other support personnel. Her job was to take care of wounded teammates and carry supplies. The fake enemies were robot turrets hidden throughout the fake city. They shot red laser beams that would sting if they hit you, but would not cause real damage. When a student got hit 3 times, their armor would lock up and they would be out of the exercise. Everything went wrong in the first 5 minutes. Jake was crouched behind a fake car talking to the assault team when the lights in the training room started flickering. The computer screens around the room began showing error messages in alien languages that Lisa could not read. "Something's not right," Jake said into his headset. "The computers are acting weird." That was when the first real plasma bolt hit the wall next to Lisa's head. The fake concrete exploded into real chunks of hot stone that burned her cheek. The bolt left a black hole in the wall that glowed with heat. This was not supposed to happen. Training weapons could not do that kind of damage. "Emergency shutdown," Commander Thexal's voice boomed over the speakers. "All weapons safe. All weapons safe. But the weapons did not become safe. The robot turrets kept firing, and now their shots were burning holes through metal and stone. The safety protocols had failed completely. What was supposed to be practice had become a real battle with real danger. The alien students reacted exactly like their training had taught them. They scattered to find cover and protect themselves. The Craxi students used their natural armor to shield themselves from the plasma bolts. The Zephyrians created energy barriers around their bodies. The Verdani grew thick bark skin that could absorb some of the heat. Jake ran toward a control panel, hoping he could shut down the malfunctioning system manually. Lisa watched him dodge between pieces of cover, his human reflexes keeping him alive by pure luck. He was almost at the panel when a turret swiveled toward him. The plasma bolt hit Jake square in the chest. The energy blast was meant to be a training sting, but the malfunction had made it as powerful as a real weapon. It burned through Jake's light armor like it was paper and kept going. Lisa saw the front of his uniform catch fire. She saw him fall backward, his arms spread wide, his face twisted in pain and surprise. He hit the ground and did not get up. Around the training room, the other students kept fighting for their own survival. This was what their species had taught them for thousands of years. When danger came, you saved yourself first. The weak died, so the strong could live. It was natural law. A Craxi student named Velkin actually stepped over Jake's body while looking for better cover. He glanced down at the burned human and shook his head. "The weak one is finished," he said to his teammate. "Focus on the mission." Lisa stared at Jake from her hiding spot behind a broken wall. She could see that he was still breathing, but barely. Blood was soaking through his burned uniform. His eyes were closed and his skin was pale. If he did not get help soon, he was going to die. The logical thing to do was stay hidden. Lisa's armor was lighter than everyone else's. She was smaller and weaker than the alien students. If she tried to reach Jake, she would probably be killed too. Then there would be 2 dead humans instead of 1. But as Lisa looked at her friend, lying in the middle of the battle zone, something inside her started to change. Her heart began beating faster. Her breathing became deep and steady. Her vision became sharper and more focused. Humans had spent millions of years learning to survive on a dangerous planet. They had fought predators with teeth and claws. They had endured ice ages and droughts and disasters. They had learned that the only way to survive was to take care of each other. Lisa's ancestors had not become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or the fastest. They had done it by being the ones who came back for their wounded. They had done it by refusing to leave anyone behind. The training room computer announced that the exercise would continue for another 15 minutes while technicians tried to fix the malfunction. 15 minutes was too long. Jake would be dead by then. Lisa checked her weapon one more time. She looked at the distance between her hiding spot and where Jake lay bleeding. She counted the robot turrets that stood between them. Then she took a deep breath and stepped out of cover. She had 23 seconds to do something impossible. Time seemed to slow down as Lisa stepped into the open. The chaos of the training room became crystal clear in her mind. She could hear every sound, see every movement, feel every vibration in the floor. Her brain was working faster than it ever had before, processing information and making calculations at lightning speed. The first robot turret detected her heat signature and began to turn. Lisa could see the exact speed of its rotation and knew exactly when it would lock onto her position. Instead of running in a straight line like the alien students expected, she moved at an angle that kept her just ahead of the turret's targeting system. A Zephyrian student named Kiara watched from her hiding spot and shook her head. "The human has panicked," she told her teammate. "She will be destroyed in seconds." But Lisa had not panicked. Every movement she made was calculated and purposeful. When the first turret fired, she was already somewhere else. The plasma bolt hit the ground where she had been a split second before, sending up a shower of sparks and molten concrete. Lisa used the smoke from the blast to mask her heat signature as she ran toward the next piece of cover. She had studied the alien technology for 3 months, learning how their sensors worked. Thermal imaging could be fooled by hot debris. Motion detectors could be confused by irregular movement patterns. The second turret swiveled toward her, its mechanical mind trying to predict where she would go next. Lisa grabbed a chunk of burning rubble from the first blast and hurled it to her left while diving to her right. The turret followed the heat signature of the hot stone, giving her precious seconds to reach the next cover. From the observation deck, Commander Thexal watched in disbelief. The human was moving through his carefully designed death trap like it was a children's playground. She was using tactics he had never seen before, exploiting weaknesses in the defense grid that his own engineers had not known existed. Lisa reached the halfway point and paused behind an overturned training barrier. Jake was still 30 feet away, lying motionless in a pool of blood. 3 more turrets stood between them, and their overlapping fields of fire made direct approach impossible, or it would have been impossible for any of the alien species. The Craxi would have tried to power through using their natural armor. The Zephyrians would have attempted to deflect the plasma bolts with energy shields. The Roku would have tried to hack into the turret control systems. All of these approaches would have failed because the turrets were designed to counter exactly these tactics. But Lisa was human. Humans had learned to hunt by being unpredictable. They had survived by doing things that made no sense to their enemies. She stripped off her outer armor vest, reducing her profile but leaving her more vulnerable to damage. Then she tied the armor to her weapon using strips torn from her uniform. When she threw this improvised bundle into the open area, it looked and moved like a running person. All 3 turrets opened fire on the decoy. While they were busy destroying her empty armor, Lisa crawled on her belly through a drainage channel that ran along the edge of the training room. The channel was too narrow for any of the larger alien species to use, but Lisa's smaller human frame fit perfectly. She emerged from the channel right next to Jake's position. Up close, she could see how badly he was hurt. The plasma blast had burned through his chest armor and scorched the skin underneath. His breathing was shallow and rapid. His pulse was weak but steady. Any of the alien species would have died from such an injury. Their evolutionary paths had emphasized either strength or intelligence or energy manipulation, but not the messy biological redundancy that kept humans alive. Jake's cardiovascular system was over-engineered for a species that had once chased prey across vast distances. His nervous system was designed to function even when severely damaged. He was dying, but he was dying slowly. There was still time to save him if Lisa could get him to the medical bay. Lisa grabbed Jake under his arms and tried to lift him. He weighed 68 kilograms to her 53, and he was unconscious dead weight. For a moment she thought it was impossible. Then she remembered her grandfather's stories about human soldiers who had carried wounded friends for miles through enemy territory. She adjusted her grip and got Jake up onto her shoulders in a fireman's carry. The extra weight made her slower and more visible, but she had no choice. She was not leaving him behind. The journey back was harder than the trip in. The robot turrets had learned from her previous tactics and were adapting their targeting algorithms. They no longer followed simple heat signatures or motion patterns. Lisa had to constantly improvise new ways to confuse their sensors. When one turret locked onto her position, she used Jake's metal dog tags to create false reflections, bouncing, laser targeting beams in the wrong direction. When another tried to predict her movement, she deliberately stumbled and fell, then rolled in a direction that made no tactical sense. A plasma bolt grazed her left shoulder, spinning her around and nearly making her drop Jake. The pain was incredible, like being branded with a hot iron. Lisa could smell her own burned flesh, but she adjusted her grip and kept moving. Pain was just information. It told her she was hurt but not how hurt. She could function with a burned shoulder. The alien students watched from their hiding spots as this small human female did something they considered impossible. She was not just surviving the gauntlet of defensive fire, she was doing it while carrying a burden that should have made success impossible. Velkun, the Craxi student who had stepped over Jake's body earlier, spoke into his communicator with something like awe in his voice. How is she still moving? The human should have collapsed minutes ago. With 8 seconds left, Lisa reached the final obstacle. A blast door was slowly closing, its massive weight designed to contain any security breach. The gap was shrinking. Rapidly, too narrow for any of the larger species to squeeze through while carrying another person. Lisa did not hesitate. She pushed Jake's unconscious body through the narrowing gap, then dove after him as the door slammed shut behind her. They tumbled together into the safe zone beyond, both of them covered in blood and burn marks. 23 seconds after she had stepped out of cover, Lisa Murphy had done the impossible. She had crossed a battlefield designed to kill anyone who entered it, and she had brought her wounded friend back alive. In the sudden silence that followed, every person in the training room stared at the blast door that had just closed. Behind it lay a small human female and her dying friend. Above them, Commander Thexall stood frozen at the observation window, trying to understand what he had just witnessed. For the first time in his long military career, the commander began to wonder if he had underestimated the humans. The medical bay erupted into controlled chaos as the emergency team rushed to help Jake. Dr. Ren Tai, the station's chief medical officer, was a Verdani who looked like a walking tree with glowing sap for blood. Her branches moved with surprising speed as she examined Jake's wounds. Massive plasma burns, possible internal bleeding, severe electrical damage to nervous system, she reported to her assistants. This level of trauma should have killed him instantly. How is he still alive? Lisa sat on a medical bed while a nurse treated her burned shoulder. She watched the medical team work on Jake through a window that separated the treatment rooms. Machines beeped and hummed around his still form. Tubes and wires connected him to devices she did not understand. Human biology is remarkably redundant, Dr. Rentai continued, studying readouts on her screens. Triple backup systems for all vital functions, excessive cardiovascular capacity, pain tolerance far beyond normal parameters. It is as if this species evolved specifically to survive trauma that would destroy others. Commander Thexall entered the medical bay, his heavy footsteps echoing on the metal floor. He stopped beside Lisa's bed and looked down at her with his 4 red eyes. For a long time he said nothing. Why? He finally asked. Why did you risk your life for one soldier? Lisa looked up at the towering Craxi commander. Her shoulder throbbed with pain and she felt exhausted, but her voice was steady when she answered. Because he's my friend. Friend. The commander repeated the word like it was foreign to him. Your species forms emotional attachments that override logical self-preservation. Yes, Lisa said simply. Commander Thexall had commanded soldiers for 300 years. He had seen courage and cowardice, brilliance and stupidity, victory and defeat. But he had never seen anything like what happened in that training room. The small human had moved through his defense grid, like it was designed for her specifically. The computer analysis of your actions is very interesting, he said, activating a holographic display that showed Lisa's path through the battlefield. You exploited 17 different weaknesses in our defensive systems, weaknesses that our own engineers did not know existed. The holographic replay showed Lisa's impossible run in slow motion. Every dodge, every improvised tactic, every split-second decision was highlighted and analyzed. The path she had taken looked chaotic to alien observers, but the computer had found patterns. You adapted to each turret's behavior in real time, the commander continued. You used our own technology against us in ways we never anticipated. You fought like no species we have ever encountered. Lisa watched her holographic self carrying Jake through the battlefield. It looked impossible even to her. I just did what felt right, she said. What felt right, the commander mused. Not what tactical doctrine demanded, not what training prescribed. What felt right to a human in that situation. Dr. Rentai approached them, her branches rustling with excitement. Commander, you should see these biological readings from both humans during the incident. The female's stress response is unlike anything in our medical databases. The doctor activated another display showing Lisa's vital signs during the rescue. Her heart rate had peaked at 190 beats per minute, but had remained steady throughout the entire ordeal. Her adrenaline levels were off the charts, but instead of causing panic or system failure, they had enhanced her performance. Most species experience system degradation under extreme stress, Dr. Rentai explained. Craxi become slow and methodical. Zephyrians lose energy coherence. Roku suffer processing errors. But humans become more capable. The stress response that should have killed her instead made her stronger. Lisa looked at the medical readouts with confusion. I felt scared the whole time, she said. I thought I was going to die. Fear is not weakness for your species, the commander said, understanding beginning to dawn in his voice. It is a tool. You use it to enhance your abilities rather than being controlled by it. Over the next 3 days, as Jake slowly recovered, the story of Lisa's rescue spread throughout the academy. The other students began looking at the humans differently. The same creatures they had dismissed as weak and simple had demonstrated capabilities that none of them possessed. Velkan, the young Craxi who had stepped over Jake's body, requested a private meeting with Lisa. His natural armor made scraping sounds as he shifted nervously in his chair. I was wrong about your friend, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. When he fell, I thought he was finished. In Craxi culture, the wounded are left behind so the strong can continue fighting. It is logical, it is efficient. Lisa said nothing, letting him work through his thoughts. But you went back for him, Velkan continued. You risked everything, for one soldier who could not contribute to the mission. By our standards, it was foolish. By your standards, it was necessary. We don't leave people behind, Lisa said. It's not who we are. Velkan's red eyes glowed with something that might have been admiration. Perhaps that is why you survived on your world. Perhaps that is why you reached the stars. Not because you are the strongest individually, but because you are stronger together. The Academy's training curriculum began changing within a week. Instructors who had spent centuries teaching individual excellence started incorporating human concepts into their lessons. Pack tactics became a required course. Unit cohesion was added to the strategic planning curriculum. Commander Thexal announced that the live fire exercise would be redesigned from the ground up. We have been training soldiers to fight alone, he told the assembled faculty. The humans have shown us the value of soldiers who fight for each other. Jake woke up on the 4th day, his chest wrapped in healing bandages and his voice hoarse from the breathing tubes. Lisa was asleep in a chair beside his bed when he opened his eyes. Hey, he said softly. Lisa jerked awake and immediately checked the monitors around his bed. How do you feel? Do you need the doctor? Are you in pain? Jake smiled weakly. I'm okay, tired, but okay. He paused, memories slowly returning. I remember getting shot. Then everything went black. How did I get out of there? Lisa took his hand and squeezed it gently. You don't remember? I carried you. Jake stared at her in disbelief. You carried me? Through that battlefield? Lisa, that's impossible. You're smaller than I am. Apparently, it's only impossible if you're not human, Lisa said with a smile. The aliens are still trying to figure out how we do it. Jake was quiet for a long time, processing what had happened. Finally, he spoke again. Thank you. You saved my life. Lisa shook her head. We save each other. That's what humans do. Outside, Jake's room, the galaxy's most advanced military academy, was learning a new lesson. Individual excellence was important, but it was not enough. Sometimes the difference between victory and defeat was not superior firepower or advanced technology. Sometimes, it was simply refusing to leave anyone behind. 6 months later, the graduation ceremony filled the Academy's Great Hall with representatives from 17 different species. The hall was massive, with walls that reached up toward a transparent dome, showing the stars beyond. Banners from different worlds hung from the ceiling, their colors bright against the silver walls. Lisa and Jake sat in the front row with the other graduating cadets. Jake had recovered completely from his injuries, though he still had scars on his chest from the plasma burns. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. Lisa knew it was not luck, but the stubborn refusal of human biology to give up. Commander Thexal stood at the podium, his black armor polished to a mirror shine. Behind him, holographic displays showed images of famous battles and legendary commanders from galactic history. His voice echoed through the hall as he began the ceremony. For 300 years, this academy has trained the finest officers in the known galaxy, he said. We have taught strategy, tactics, weapons mastery, and leadership to thousands of cadets who have gone on to protect their worlds and serve their people. Lisa looked around at her fellow graduates. 6 months ago, most of them had ignored her. And Jake. Now they nodded respectfully when they passed in the corridors. Some had even become friends, asking questions about human culture and sharing stories from their own worlds. But this year's class has taught us something new, the commander continued. They have shown us that excellence comes in many forms. That strength is not always measured by individual capability. That sometimes the greatest victory comes from refusing to accept defeat. The commander's red eyes found Lisa in the audience. Cadet Murphy, Cadet Collins, please approach the platform. Lisa and Jake stood up, their dress uniforms crisp and clean. As they walked toward the stage, the other cadets began applauding. The sound grew louder as alien students from all 17 species showed their respect for the two humans who had changed how everyone thought about warfare. On the platform, Commander Thexal held a small crystal box. Inside were 2 medals that caught the light from the dome above and scattered rainbow patterns across the stage. They were the Galactic Star of Valor, the highest honor that could be awarded to military personnel. These medals have been given to only 47 individuals in the history of the Galactic Alliance, the commander said. They recognize not just courage in battle, but actions that fundamentally change how we understand what it means to be a soldier. He placed the first medal around Jake's neck. The crystal felt warm against his chest, and Jake could see his reflection multiplied dozens of times in its faceted surface. Cadet Collins, your calm professionalism under fire and dedication to duty exemplify the best qualities of military service. You maintained communication and coordination even when facing mortal danger. Then he turned to Lisa. As he placed the medal around her neck, his voice became softer, more personal. Cadet Murphy, your actions in the training incident have been studied by military academies throughout the galaxy. In 23 seconds, you demonstrated principles that we had forgotten in our pursuit of individual perfection. You showed us that the strongest army is not made of the most powerful soldiers, but of soldiers who will never abandon each other. The applause was thunderous. Even species that normally showed no emotion were cheering. Lisa felt tears running down her cheeks, but she was smiling too widely to care. Dr. Rentai approached the podium, her branches rustling with excitement. If I may, Commander, I would like to share some findings from our medical analysis of the human cadets. The commander gestured for her to proceed. Human biology is extraordinary, the doctor announced to the crowd. Their cardiovascular system has 3 times the capacity necessary for their normal activities. Their nervous system can function, even when severely damaged. Their stress response enhances performance rather than degrading it. But most remarkably, their social bonding creates measurable improvements in individual capability. She activated a holographic display showing brain scans of both humans. When Cadet Murphy believed her friend was in danger, her cognitive processing speed increased by 40%. Her reaction time improved by 30%. Her pain tolerance doubled. The emotional attachment that we thought made them weak actually made them stronger. A Zephyrian professor in the audience raised her hand. Doctor, are you saying that human emotions are actually a tactical advantage? That is exactly what I'm saying, Dr. Rentai replied. Humans fight better when they have something to protect. They endure more when they are not fighting alone. Their pack bonding behavior, which we initially saw as primitive, is actually a highly evolved survival mechanism. Commander Thexal took the podium again. The Academy's training protocols have been completely revised based on what we learned from our human cadets. We now emphasize unit cohesion, mutual support, and adaptive tactics. Every cadet learns not just how to win battles, but how to bring their teammates home alive. He paused, looking out at the audience of alien officers and officials. We have spent centuries perfecting individual warriors. The humans have reminded us that sometimes the most sophisticated weapon is 2 soldiers who refuse to abandon each other. After the ceremony, Lisa and Jake were assigned to the Gas Defiant, an exploration vessel tasked with mapping the galaxy's outer rim. As they packed their belongings, Velkin stopped by their room. The young Craxi had changed over the past 6 months. He no longer spoke about the weak being left behind. He had started asking questions about human culture and had even tried to learn some Earth languages. "I wanted to thank you," he said to Lisa. "Not just for what you did in the training room, but for what you taught all of us. On my world, we have a saying, 'The strong survive alone,' but I think humans have a better saying." Lisa looked at him curiously. "What's that?" Velkan's pronunciation was careful and precise. "No one left behind." Lisa smiled. "That's right. No one left behind." As their transport ship pulled away from the academy, Lisa and Jake watched through the window as the station grew smaller among the stars. They were carrying new orders, new responsibilities, and new respect from their alien colleagues. But more importantly, they were carrying a new understanding of what humanity brought to the galactic community. Not superior technology or advanced abilities, but something perhaps more valuable: the absolute refusal to give up on each other. In the depths of space, new threats were gathering at the edges of explored territory. Unknown species with unknown capabilities were moving toward the borders of the Galactic Alliance. When they arrived, they would face not just individual warriors or advanced weapons, but something they could not understand or prepare for. They would face humans who fought not just to win but to protect, who defined victory not as personal survival, but as bringing everyone home, who turned friendship into armor and loyalty into an unstoppable force. The galaxy had gained 2 new officers, but more importantly, it had learned that the most dangerous enemy was not the one with the biggest weapons or the strongest armor. It was the one who would never, ever leave a friend behind. The stars stretched endlessly ahead of them, full of unknown dangers and unlimited possibilities. Lisa and Jake faced that future together, as humans always had, as humans always would, ready to prove once again that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they refused to abandon each other.